After an important work meeting, CEO Zach enjoys himself during an office party. The moment is interrupted by former employee Hans, who has broken it to yell at Zach. He's furious because all the older employees have been fired even though they helped build the company from nothing. Hans is so desperate that he offers to take a lower salary so he's hired back, but Zach sends him away. Then Hans pulls out a gun and calls him a liar. Zach begs him to calm down, reminding him that these people are his friends and talking about his wife, who recently had a miscarriage. Hans decides to self-delete, splashing blood all over Zach's face. Moments later, Zach calls his wife Emmy to apologize for not spending more time together and say he loves her. That night, Zach is at the bar and hears Julia argue with the bartender, so he buys her a drink to calm her down. They chat for a while and Zach shares that he has some great plans with Emmy tomorrow. He notices that Julia is flirting with him, so he turns her down and says that he loves his wife. The next day, Zach and Emmy go on a vacation together. During the car ride, Zach gets a message from an unknown number saying I really enjoyed last night, so he asks who is this. The mysterious number says something about Emmy finding out and asking for 500,000 euros for their silence. The last message is a link with Julia's name, so Zach says his lawyers will take care of this. That night at the hotel, Zach opens the door for room service and thinks he sees someone watching him nearby, but that person disappears. Then he receives more messages from Julia, however Zach ignores them to have dinner with Emmy. He tries to get naughty with her, but she doesn't feel ready yet. The following day, the couple meets Harry, who will take them on a hot air balloon trip. While Harry goes over the rules, another client arrives and Zach is shocked to see Julia. She friendly introduces herself, pretending she doesn't know Zach, so he does the same. The reservation was for 2 people, but Julia claims her friend couldn't come. Feeling uncomfortable, Zach pretends he doesn't feel well and wants to leave. Emmy thinks he's just scared and convinces him to stay. After each person is located on a different corner, the balloon finally takes off. Zach takes advantage of the noise to ask Julia what she's doing, so she says that if he sends her the money now, they can enjoy the flight. As the balloon goes higher, the group is impressed by the amazing views and the feeling of freedom in the air. Harry calls air traffic control to report this flight and they warn him of a cloud formation in the east. Then Julia asks Zach if he recognizes her and Emmy gets curious, but Zach says she's just confused. Harry reveals a bottle of champagne and opens it with a knife that he keeps on his belt. After a toast, the women start chatting. Emmy asks Julia about her work and she says that she hassles people who owe money, claiming it's credit control for a private bank. Sensing some tension, Harry distracts them by talking about the views and how being up there helps them escape from their problems. He also shares that he used to be in the Navy and after retiring, he started flying this balloon. He jokes about getting paid for this and Julia starts laughing, making everyone uncomfortable. Then Harry starts singing and his voice sounds amazing, thanks to the echo. He convinces Emmy to try, so she lets out a short scream that feels very liberating. Julia decides to try too, but she makes some weird noises that make everyone uncomfortable again. After an awkward pause, Julia announces it's time for pictures, so she takes several of the happy couple and one of Harry. While Emmy takes a selfie with Harry, Zach asks Julia if she's enjoying this. She says it's better than the other night and asks him to take a picture of her with Harry. When he grabs her phone, he finds a message that says pay the money or live to regret it. Soon the balloon starts getting closer to the mountains and Harry quickly makes it go higher to avoid crashing. Julia tells Zach that he needs to take care of this soon and Emmy wants to know what's happening. Harry realizes that things are getting too tense and tells everyone to relax and enjoy the view. When Emmy asks again, a bird suddenly flies above her head. It really scares her, but she doesn't get hurt. Harry gets excited because that was a golden eagle, which is so rare that it should be seen as a lucky sign. A frustrated Julia asks Harry to turn the balloon around. He explains he can't land in the middle of the mountains, the only way to return is to ride the currents back. That means they still have half an hour left. Then Julia turns to Zach again and mentions the drink he bought for her the other night. Since he keeps denying everything, Julia tells Emmy that she knows that they haven't gotten dirty since she lost the baby. Finding himself in a corner, Zach admits he went out for a few drinks but that was it. Emmy is hurt that he shared that with a stranger and Julia says she wasn't a stranger because Zach got dirty with her. He immediately denies it, so Julia mentions his initialed socks and his birthmark, lifting his shirt to prove it. Emmy now believes her and Zach keeps denying it, so Harry tries to make everyone calm down. A frustrated Zach yells at him with foul language before Emmy asks him why Julia is there with them. Zach admits he had a drink with her and explains she's following him to harass him for money. She probably knows about the birthmark from social media pictures. While the group keeps arguing, Harry sees an alarm on his device and opens a vent because they're flying too high. Julia asks him to stop and when he refuses, she takes his knife and announces that Zach isn't getting away with this. Harry immediately tries to call for help but Julia cuts the radio cables. The balloon keeps going higher and Harry points out that he needs to fix it or they'll run out of oxygen and die. Emmy notices that they're too high too and begs Julia to let Harry fix the issue. When Harry grabs the rope, Julia tries to make him stop and Zach uses the chance to jump on her. Harry helps him and they hold her over the edge of the basket to try to disarm her. The whole balloon shakes as they keep on struggling, and Julia starts coughing. This distracts Zach so she uses the chance to pull him back, Then she grabs a long tool and tries to attack them again. The men team up to push her against the basket once more, and Zach smacks her wrist on the edge until she drops the knife. When he tries to take the tool too, Julia fights him, and in the struggle it keeps hitting a hose until it punctures it, so now the balloon is leaking gas. The fight continues and the tool hits the burner, causing the flames to grow and spread on Julia's body. As she panics and screams, Emmy helps her take off her jacket and covers her with a blanket. Harry gets his extinguisher and quickly puts out the flames, but Zach looks away the whole time. Now black smoke comes out of the balloon and ashes fall from the basket. The balloon is still rising and Harry needs to open the vent, but the fire has burned off half the rope. He has no choice but to carefully climb on the edge of the basket to try to reach what is left of the rope. It's still too high, so he has to stand on his tiptoes to finally grab it. When he finally starts opening the vent, Julia grabs his pants and tries to stop him, but instead she pushes him off the basket and Harry falls to his death. Zach yells at Julia, who swears it was an accident. The alarm on the balloon device goes off, warning them that they're running out of oxygen. As she starts to feel dizzy, Emmy sees the knife on the floor and tries to grab it. However, crouching makes her dizziness worse, so she rushes to the edge of the basket and manages to get some extra air to calm down, although she's also startled by the abyss below. When she turns around, she discovers that Julia has collapsed. Desperate to bring the balloon down, Emmy searches Harry's bag and gets a strap. Then she carefully climbs on the edge of the basket. Zach wants to help her, however the lack of oxygen makes him collapse too. Moving slowly, Emmy climbs onto the burner and has to hold tightly to avoid falling. With her body dangerously leaning over the basket, she tries to reach the rope, only to pass out over the lack of air. Her body begins sliding down and she almost falls, but thankfully she wakes up just in time to save herself. Now she can finally reach the rope and open the vent, so the balloon starts going down. She also ties the strap to the burnt rope so they'll be able to reach it from the basket. Afterward, Emmy wakes Zach up and checks her phone, but she has no signal. Zach gets another strap to tie Julia's hands and gags her with a bandana. Then he tells Emmy that Julia is lying and shows her their beach pictures, which prove she could have learned about the birthmark from social media. At that moment the couple discovers that the balloon is headed to the mountains, so they'll crash. They need to go higher, but the burner isn't working anymore, so they need to get rid of some weight. The couple starts throwing out the gas tanks, and as they move around, they notice that the fire has damaged the bottom of the basket. Emmy wants to keep at least one tank in case they need it later, but Zach thinks avoiding the crash is more important. Suddenly the balloon reaches the mountain and flies as it slides on its side. The couple thinks the balloon is going to get destroyed by the pointy rocks, but it continues to move ahead and they manage to escape. Once they're safe, Zach takes a look and discovers that there's a hole in the balloon now. Afterward, Emmy gives Julia some water. Another argument is about to ensue, but at that moment the balloon flies through a thick cloud formation. While Emmy tries to keep an eye on where they are going, Zach asks Julia why she targeted him. While Julia secretly reaches for the knife, she keeps Zach distracted by revealing she's Hans' daughter and she blames him for her father's death. Zach explains he had to make a business decision and he paid Hans well. Julia gets furious and calls him out for his entitlement, reminding him that Hans worked hard for the company for 40 years but Zach just inherited the money. Suddenly she jumps on Zach and stabs him in the shoulder, so Emmy has to pull her away. She tries to calm Julia down and offers her sympathy for her father, saying they can work this out and claim the stabbing was an accident. When Zach protests, Emmy yells at him, angry that he can't see that she's doing what's necessary to survive. Julia then freaks out again and Emmy offers more sympathy, promising it's going to be okay. While Julia apologizes to Emmy for getting her involved in this, Zach takes the chance to hit her with the gas tank. Julia immediately drops dead and Emmy screams in horror, not believing that her husband could do this. Zach says he did it to protect her before he collapses and begs for help as his wound starts bleeding heavily. Emmy finds a first aid kit and tries her best to bandage him. Minutes later, Emmy notices that the hole in the balloon is getting bigger and they're being pushed toward the mountains again, losing height really fast. She connects the last tank to the burner and keeps pressing the buttons, but nothing happens. Zach demands more ideas and Emmy yells at him for not helping. While he points out that they should get rid of Julia's body, Emmy checks Harry's bag and finds a lighter. She covers Julia's body with her jacket before working with Zach to finally light the burner again. Thankfully it works and the balloon flies above the mountains. After a few minutes, the couple realizes they overdid it and now they're going too high, so they start throwing things out. At that moment Emmy notices a wind current blowing the objects and remembers that Harry said it'll guide them home. She rushes to open the vent and the balloon effectively goes lower, however it's also moving too close to the side of the mountains. Luckily the wind guides them around it and they avoid crashing. Julia's body keeps slipping, so Emmy lays it down properly and covers it with the blanket. Zach says it isn't his fault because it was self-defense, and Emmy points out this wouldn't have happened if he hadn't bought her a drink. An argument ensues and Zach reminds her that in the last few months, Emmy always said no to going out together. Getting angry, Emmy insults him as she steps forward, only for her weight to finally destroy the burned spot on the basket. She falls through the resulting hole, saving herself at the last second by holding on to the edge. Zach doesn't react for a few seconds, and Emmy has to beg for help to get him moving. He tries to bring her up but the wound on his shoulder has left him weak. Emmy slips and holds onto a wooden board that is about to break. Then Zack throws a strap and Emmy manages to grab it right before the wood breaks and falls. The strap slips from Zack's hand and he has to catch it again. As the balloon gets too close to the top of the mountains, Zack puts the strap around his body and pulls as hard as he can until he finally manages to bring Emmy back into the basket. She asks him why he hesitated to save her, and Zack swears it was just the shock. Moments later the balloon begins approaching a storm. The couple realizes it's picking up speed because it's losing air since the hole is getting bigger. As the rain and strong winds surround them, the couple climbs on top of the burner. Zack acts as support and Emmy painfully steps on his shoulder to reach the hole. The wind keeps shaking her body and she almost falls, but after lots of effort she manages to grab the broken fabric piece and ties it to the balloon using a strap. When Emmy starts coming down, she slips on the wet fabric and Zack has to catch her. Then they return to the basket and turn on the burner, which luckily pushes the balloon out of the storm. The basket still hits the side of the mountain but it's only a slight shake before they escape. While they fly over an open field, Zack checks his phone but he still has no signal. Emmy wonders how Julia knew about Zack's initialed socks since those aren't on social media. She searches Julia's body and Zack gets nervous, so he secretly kicks her phone through the hole in the basket. Then Emmy takes Zack's phone to look at Julia's messages. She opens the link and finds a video of Julia and Zack getting dirty. They discussed what happened in the office and Zack insulted Hans, saying he was worthless and had to be flushed away. Emmy wonders if Zack ever really cared and he claims that he cares about having a family, but she can't give him one. He complains about Emmy spending the last months wallowing in guilt and self-pity instead of getting dirty with him. He also points out that he's given her an amazing rich life. When she tries to explain she doesn't care about material belongings and is annoying pretentious friends, Zack calls her ungrateful and says that without him she'd be cleaning toilets. Emmy realizes what a horrible man he is and announces she wants a divorce, promising to take half the company. When Zack comes closer saying she can't afford to divorce him, Emmy pushes him and causes him to fall down the hole. He holds onto the basket and begs for help, only to slip out. He only manages to save himself by grabbing the strap. Emmy watches him while he alternates between begging for help and threatening to ruin her life, then she chooses her revenge. She pushes Julia's body out of the hole and it hits Zack, causing him to fall to his death. A crying Emmy then throws out a necklace he gifted her and her wedding ring. Eventually the balloon reaches a forest and after flying through some trees, it gently lands on the grass. Emmy steps out and turns on the burner to set the whole balloon on fire before walking away. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.